So, welcome everybody to the Dallas Film Podcast, hosted by Southside Studios Dallas. I am Tony Armour, and I got so used to saying Dallas Film Commissioner when we started doing these podcasts, but now former Dallas Film Commissioner and head of production for talent, entertainment, finance. But we're happy to keep these podcasts rolling and sponsor them by Southside Studios in Dallas here. And so, excited to have a group with us today. And I'm actually just going to let all of them introduce themselves because they'll do a much better job than I will. So take it away. We'll go David, Adam, Joy, because that's the order I see you on my screen.
Great.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm David Joseph Volino. Half of Wayward Kin. Half of Anytown Pictures. But I wrote and acted in and produced Wayward Kin.
Awesome.
My name is Adam Lowder. Co-wrote, co-produced Wayward Kin.
I'm Joy Walden, and I associate produced Wayward Kin as well as first AD'd.
You did not act or help write or produce? Well, you produced, yes. I was hoping for the trifecta where all three of you had all acted in and and done the film. Well, so as we start out, so we're talking about your film Wayward Kin. Why don't you let's tell the four people that are listening to this, maybe more than that, about the film and about this project.
So I guess since I'm the director, I can show it a little bit. This film is called Wayward Kin, so it's right there in the name. This follows a family who is having some struggles. It's centered around a custody case, and the two parents who are not together anymore are trying to win custody of this precious child, and she's caught in the middle of it. And so it explores the difficulties and the dynamics of this type of battle. So it doesn't shy away from the dark aspects of custody case in a real courthouse with real people, just like it happens all over the world all the time. But through that darkness, I think we're trying to shed some light on is there hope in a situation like this, and what can the innocence and purity and love of a child actually teach us as people, as adults, as audience members. So that's kind of our aim with the film.
Okay. Well, let's rewind it a little bit then. So now we know a little bit about you guys as far as what you're doing on this project and or what you did on this project and what the project is. But take us back. Well, let's go backwards in time a little bit and tell me about who are you? Okay, we know writer, producer, director, actor, associate producer, all the titles and stuff. But who are you and why this film?
Not to hog the mic too much, but I'll kind of say, I'm from Texas originally, grew up in McKinney, Texas, and explored theater later in my high school kind of life, and then ended up really getting the acting bug or whatever. That took me out to New York City, and I was there for 11 years. And I met David in an acting class halfway through my stint in New York. And all the while, I was writing and directing and producing really terrible, no-budget movies, and just trying to get better at acting and writing and just creative endeavors in my career. And that led us to just clicking as friends, becoming as close as friends could be. And then eventually in 2020, he and I started writing this film together. And that was 4.5 years ago now. So obviously, Dave, you can kind of talk about yourself and where you come from and all that stuff. That's how we met.
Yeah. I'll just piggyback where Adam left off. I was pretty depressed, pretty down and out. World shutting down, no acting jobs, and had to take a hard look in the mirror. And thank God Adam was my best friend at the time because he kept calling me. And I called less and he was calling more. And he said, "Hey man, just if you had to tell one story, like if there was just one left in the tank, if you only got to tell one more, what would it be? What would it be about?" And I think because of what Adam means to me, it meant to me at that time, brothers was what came up.
You said best friend at that time. He's not your best friend anymore.
Oh no, he's my best friend now. I'm just saying, at that time, no, we're still super close.
You've moved on after this film.
The world will never get between us. No way. No, I love him to death. But yeah, it was brothers. Brothers was the theme, and so we started writing from that place, and the story grew. But that was the seed that kind of kept us going. And Yeah, I guess that's all I can really speak on for. We just kept writing every single day. We had nowhere to go and nowhere to be but in Zooms with each other in New Jersey to Texas, and that's what we did. We developed a story, and then we're lucky enough to grab a team led by Joy. Right there, we found this angel that fell right into our laps on this project, and it was a miracle, total miracle.
Joy, how did you come on board the project?
Sure. I was connected with Adam through, I worked at a studio in Fort Worth. And so one of the producers at the studio connected me with Adam. And that's how I got onto Wayward Kin. And I would say that I thought it was an immediate connection. It was just obvious that there was a really kind and good heart behind this production and the production company. And I think we clicked in that sense, as well as there was just a lot of really great work ethic.
And so this is all 2020 then when the writing process begins. How does that evolve? How long does it take you to really have what you think is something you can shoot? And when do you come into this, Joy? Like, are you in while they're still writing? Have you guys finished draft of the first draft, second draft? What is it like? What does that timeline look like?
I think I came in after the final draft. Maybe you're still making small tweaks, but I didn't come in until the summer of 2022.
Yeah, so we were in pre-production, development for about a year, pre-production for a year and a half or so, and yeah, we probably wrote. I mean, it's the way Dave and I like to write. Is we don't think of it as like my idea is better. I want this to be the thing. And then, we just kind of share that. It's more so we start with like what Dave said, brothers. Like there's a lot of meaning behind a story about brothers inside me somewhere, right? And that's what Dave was saying. I obviously agreed. I have a brother. I have friends that I feel like are my family. And I was like, there's definitely something here. Let's talk about it. And that just started to chisel out into what became a debatable premise. And we were kind of saying, well, there should be a character. If we're trying to say that selflessness is a good thing, then maybe the character struggles with selfishness. And that's where kind of the main flaw within our protagonist, Caleb Dodgens, played by Dave, is actually starts to become a real character. And then when we start to solidify that premise and then the character is born out of that, if we create that character and the rest of the characters realistically enough, they will tell us what they want to do. And we will kind of just record what they do. So when we write, it's less typing and more, hey man, I see him doing this. And then he goes here and what would he do if he were in this situation? And then he would be like, I see this. So it's really an exercise in collective imagination and kind of debate from the characters' points of view. And so that's really what a lot of our drafts consisted of. So the drafts probably went through, I don't know, maybe 80 to 100 variations on a 40 scene sequence. When we got that down to like, okay, I think this is the story, that went into screenplay draft. We did about 20 or so of those. And then, that's when Joy comes along, is we send like the one that we think, okay, we could probably shoot this one. This is the best we can do with where we're at right now. And then, she was the one that, having her on board, made this thing a reality. We would not have been able to do it without her. And so it was just like she said, it was just like such a great, amazing piece to the puzzle that we absolutely needed. And she did like way more than just associate produce and first AD, which was amazing and very, very, like, a lot of great work. But she did so many things that it's like it was a team effort.
But that's true. That's true indie filmmaking. That's how it works, really. And so you had said that, hey, if you can only tell you got one story left. What are we going to tell? So are you guys all children of divorce? Is this why you kind of gravitated to this so much, and it happened at a young age? Like, what's the genesis of that?
Yeah, Dave, go if you want to take this one.
Yeah, please. Yeah, I think we started with brothers, and why I say that is because Adam's my brother, and I trust him, and he trusts me enough to talk about everything and anything. And yeah, we're children of divorce, both of us. And so we were able to be very honest and open and vulnerable about those experiences, about what they felt like as a child. It's not a surprise we became so close, I think, because we were children of divorce, and it breeds a unique like temperament and very sensitivity towards certain things, and yeah, I mean, it was like we were in an incubator, like examining our childhoods and like
Yeah.
where we're at now as men and our relationships and breaking cycles that we see over time. That selflessness element of the story is exactly what we're talking about. Um, how many times in your life have you felt like you're doing the right thing and it's at the cost of someone you're not even realizing? So, uh, yeah, we're both children of divorce. To say that we're both children of divorce, and it's definitely why I think we told the story, our first feature about that topic.
Enjoy. What about you? Not that I'm Dr. Phil here or anything, or digging into your childhoods, but it's an interesting topic, obviously, for a film, and there's a reason it gets written, and there's a reason people come on board.
Yeah, I don't share the experience. My parents didn't divorce as I was growing up. So it was really interesting to see kind of the heart of it from like an outside perspective, perhaps. It was just really obvious from the beginning how authentic it was, which is what I think really drew me in at the beginning. And then throughout the production, of course, the authenticity I think was prioritized, which just made for such a wonderful real story that everybody wants to see a real story because at its roots you can connect to whatever the root of the feeling is.
Yeah. Now, have you guys, in the process of doing this, kind of come across people? It almost seems like today, more so than it was however many years ago, that almost everybody's a children of divorce. It used to be the other way around. Like you go to school and, 20% of the kids were doing the shared parenting thing and going back and forth or whatever. But now it feels like, it's higher than 50%. Like the rate of divorce is like higher than 50% now, right? And so it seems like it's more than that. My parents didn't get divorced until I was 23. So like childhood was fine. But then it was weird. It's like 23, you guys are gonna do it now. You've waited this long. But so I think people have different relationships to the story in different ways because of different ages when these things happen. It's kind of what's been your experience with other people that have either seen it or you've talked to about it, and what their experiences are and how they relate then to the story.
Yeah, yeah, great question. It was really something that you kind of, when you write something, especially if it's really really personal or from the heart or something, you really are going into all these meetings with someone having already examined that. If they've watched anything you've made or they've read the script, they kind of know, wow, okay, well, what happened to you? I remember our one of our second ACs, Glenn, was on set one day. He was kind of filling in the latter half of the production. And so he hadn't been super familiar with the story, and we had shot a certain scene. I won't spoil it, but we said cut, and he looked at me and he was like, "Oh my god, did you wrote this?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." I was like acting in it too, and I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm okay. I promise." But I think when you do that, it unconsciously allows other people to
Yeah.
express themselves and open up. So I mean, in many different calls, whether it was like hiring somebody or just trying to talk to maybe investors at the front of it, or just team, whatever, we would connect with a lot of people that have been touched by this element in their lives, whether it did happen to them, or whether they were going through it themselves now as adults with
Yeah.
a child. And it was really, honestly, it was just great connective tissue. Not only just to connect with other people and realize, wow, the story's resonating already, but to also help us stay true and authentic to the situation and hear it from all different perspectives and angles, because we don't want to just tell it from, this is how it was for me, so this is the way it is. It's like, no, let's really do like a 360 and really examine this from many perspectives. And that just helped the story.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because I have friends that are, around my age that have gone through the divorce and doing the custody thing and like the lunacy that happens, and whether it's sisters or friends or whatever it was, and then or somebody went through it as a kid and so they experienced it as a child, and they're also experiencing it in a different way as an adult. So there's so many different angles and ages. Is it happening when you're 2 or when you're 12? That's a very different, or when you're 23, right? Those are all very different experiences. And so how did you layer in okay, the experience of it happening as you're a kid and kind of what age range, and then how do you layer in the experience of now later on, are you guys married and have gone through a divorce and a custody thing already, or is you've got friends? Like, how do you get those different levels of experiences and marry them into a story that then makes sense? Where it's because you're not necessarily on one perspective; it's a broader perspective of all the different characters.
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think you just speak to people. I think we like Adam was saying, we had a lot of conversations with people that we were potentially going to work with, and then they would offer up their stories to us, and we got that father side of a perspective of going through a custody dispute where they feel like the law is totally against them, and we haven't been through that personally. We don't have children yet. Adam has a cat. I have a little Shih Tzu dog. That's all we have.
Hey,
So
I'm a dog daddy too, so it's okay.
yeah, right on. Respect. So yeah, we just talked to a lot of people. We read a ton of court cases, actually, custody cases. We were going through the breakdowns of custody cases and line by line going through responses and testimonies, and that gives you a ton of information if you sit with it. And yeah, we just really try to soak up a ton of different stories about divorce from all these angles. And many families, I mean, where I come from, it's pretty prevalent. I'm from North Jersey, so it's a pretty prevalent area for divorce. So when I said divorce, it would just roll off my tongue like nothing. And then I went to Whitesboro, Texas, and I met a beautiful family, the Lovejoys there. And we sat down with them for lunch. And I mentioned divorce, and it was as if I said a curse word. It was
Yeah.
like, I can't believe, whoa, 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 whoa. And I'd never seen that kind of response before. So the more people you sit down with, the more different sides to divorce you see. And I think when we wrote these characters, they're each in these different roles. Katie, who's playing Lily Dodge, and she's fighting because she believes I'm a threat. She sees her husband as a threat. We've also watched cop, patrol videos of these like disputes in real time. So that happens. That's as real as it gets, and we just try to absorb as much of that as possible, along with our personal experience.
Yeah, and it's interesting because as someone who grew up in the 80s, I remember my grandparents when my aunt was like in the process of divorce, and it was like, no, you can't get divorced. What are you talking about? Like, this is not something that's allowed. You're literally not allowed to get divorced. It's verboten. Not only is it culturally looked down upon, but then if there's a religious factor at all in there, then it's when you say until death do us part, you got to figure it out. And so then there's that religious aspect depending on families. So when you say it's prevalent in New Jersey versus Texas, why do you think that is? Do you think that it was maybe a Bible Belt thing with Texas? Do you think it's a cultural religious, and then Joy, you can hop in and say too, as someone who lives in Texas and Fort Worth area, what's your opinion on that?
I totally probably think it's a cultural thing. Though I don't really, I think it's how you grew up, and sometimes that can mean geographically and sometimes not, because I'm sure there are people who share similar cultures in the North as they do the South. I think for me specifically, my family was a Christian family. I went to church all the time. They made it a priority, and I don't think it was always easy to stay together. But some families, they have different experiences, and I think that just goes to show like what you guys are talking about: different ages, different cultures, different religions, different viewpoints. So every experience is really unique.
So all the heathens live in New Jersey, basically. And
No.
Yeah, I won't dispute that.
All right. Well, this is a film podcast, and so let's talk a little bit about the filmmaking process itself. I mean, it is film is about telling stories and connecting with people, and that's why people love movies so much. Is because of the stories that we tell or that we enjoy watching. Making a movie is really hard. Had you directed or produced a feature film prior to this one, any of the three of you?
Any of us have.
It's our first.
First feature film, and so kudos to you. I totally appreciate that. I'm a big proponent of just find a way to make your first feature. This summer sometime I'm going to be shooting in partnership with the University of Tampa, using their LED volume, we're going to shoot a How to Make Your First Feature Film series.
Okay.
Because I'm always someone who's like, just go make it. I made my first feature in 2004 for $6,000. And anybody who listens to the podcast has heard me say this a million times before, but you guys haven't heard it. And it was a terrible film. But after you do that, people say, "Oh, you're a feature filmmaker. Will you help me make mine? What are you doing next?" They don't even need to see it. They just know now you're a feature filmmaker. So talk about getting started on your first feature. I'm assuming you didn't have a huge budget on this one. How do you put the little bit of funding you need together? You know, we all worked for free on my first feature. Nobody paid any. We just all did it because we were friends and wanted to do it. How do you make a first feature film? How did you guys do it?
Well, it starts with, for me, I'd made, Dave had produced and written a few short films. I had done the same, and always had aspirations to make more stuff and bigger stuff and make a feature film eventually, because so many of those films had meant so much to me. And so the thing that we started with was that central question that we talked about at the beginning: if you had one story to tell, what would it be? And we're big believers in that. If you start with the meaning, start with the why, it can get you over any obstacle or through any difficulty, because it means so much to you that you'll find a way around it or through it, and you'll get there. So we started with that, which was really filling the tank with the longevity of production, which is 4.5 years now. I mean, I still love the movie. I still love it. I'm obsessed with it. I love it, and it's never wavered. It's never been like, I'm so done with this. Like, I'm so ready for the next one, which I think is very natural to feel. You've been working on something so long, but when it has that type of meaning and richness in your own life or in your own experience of making it, or we really did our best to try to explore all the angles, and you can glean so many different variants on meaning and stuff like that. It kind of is that gift that keeps on giving. So I'd say starts with that, because the people that we talked to, who then we had to convince and persuade to join the team, I think that was what the consensus seemed to be. It was like, well, you guys really seem to believe in it, and you guys seem to be passionate about it. And okay, cool. I like the story, or it resonates with me on some level, but it also, you can't just get on the train if you know it's going to crash.
Yeah.
We feel like you guys are going to do it. So that was the thing that kept getting us more and more people that would say yes. And I think people are coming at this cold. We only had a couple people we had worked with before, and then everybody else was brand new. Like, Joy was such an integral part of what we did, but I didn't even know you. Like, we just met on a Zoom, and it was like, all right, so we got this and this and this and this and this and this. It's like, okay, all right, I'm in. Let's go. And that's not an easy thing. So,
Joy, were you like, all right, well, these guys got no money and they've never made a feature before. That sounds great. I'm in.
Yeah, we were talking about this a couple days ago. I think if you would have come to me with the same thing that came to me now, perhaps I would have had a different attitude. But it was my first feature, and there was some sort of naivety, or however you pronounce that word, naiveness there that I had, that maybe we all had because it was our first, but it created such a wonderful attitude. And it really goes to show you what attitude can do to a production, because if any one of that entire 12-person crew was like, no, I don't think this is going to work, then it wouldn't have worked,
Okay, well, good. That answers the question. There are 12 people, so it's a 12-person crew, and I love lean and mean. 12 people on some day, 9 on others. Everybody's booming one hand, lighting the other.
Yeah, right.
I get it. I've been there. And so what's that like as you're putting your team together? And talk about, where did you shoot this, and did you? I mean, hey, I got a house. We'll use my house because we don't have to pay a location fee. Like, how does it all the little pieces come together?
Yeah. I mean, again, Joy did so many things. Partly what she did was line produce. So when we had our funds and everything, she was making sure that everything was allocated properly. We would have meetings about that a couple times a week or once a week as we were leading up through pre-production, hiring people, and then she was also doing the schedule. And we were talking about different drafts of the schedule. We shot this in 11 days, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But we We wouldn't have been able to do that without what she was doing and really being specific about, I mean, how does it take 5 minutes to get there? You know, because when we wrote the script, a lot of people will say, write it contained, write it for one location. And I don't think that's a bad idea production wise, but for us, we didn't think about that at all. And it was obvious. We had, I think it was like 13 company moves. We had
in 11 days. That's good.
Yeah.
11 days. And we had
good thing you weren't union or didn't have the budget to have teams. Sometimes we've been screwed.
Yeah, exactly. We knew, okay, this is what we're going to have to do, and so this is kind of how we have to shoot it. You know, I had to shoot like a 3-to-1 ratio.
But hey, when it's 12 people, right? You're moving 12 people, and you're not moving 100 people and a ton of trucks or something like that. So that, you know, it gives you a little more capability.
It helps. Yeah.
And I think everybody was all kind of on the same page too. We all kind of had this beginning like, all right, we know this is crazy, but we got to go for it. And I think we only really ran late once. I think I really remember one day we ran late. So we stayed on time, which is a miracle for most of the shoot.
Yeah. And that's
how, as you're directing, I just did a short proof of concept a couple of weeks ago for a feature that we're, you know, going to work on. And we were 8 to 4 on the one day, 8 to 5 the next. And we and the DP were looking at each other and be like, all right. I mean, a lot of times, sometimes we were like, one take, you like it? You like it? Yeah, why do we need to do another one? Let's how was it? What was that process like of like, you're not doing Peter Jackson 25 takes, Lord of the Rings style here, you know?
No way. We were talking about this a couple of days ago as well. We kind of, again, we hadn't really worked. This crew was the first time we were working together. And so, I mean, day one of shooting, that was the first time Joy and I met in person. We had done all this stuff. Even though we were in Texas, we were doing all this stuff remotely. And so we were all kind of there. And I think I knew as director, I was like, I have to give them confidence that we'll make the day. Because if you're not being paid your normal rate, and it's 11 days, and there's 12 people, and there's 13 company moves, and we're shooting in 9 cities, it's like, if we're going to be precious about the takes and all this stuff, the steam goes out really fast.
You burn your crew fast,
Yeah, so we shot the first take indoors that had actually been lit. And I was like, I'm ready to move on. And Jordan Toussaint, our amazing director of photography, was like, can we please shoot at least safety? We're not one. So I was like, no, of course. We did a safety and we got out of there. And it was a really simple shot. But it was Joy did a really good job immediately communicating with me, because she went from line producer hat, take that off, I'm the AD now. And so she was in charge of us making the day, and then Jordan was in charge of us covering the script. So it was like, as you know, you're sitting in the tension of those two necessities. And it was just awesome communication from both of them that helped me make decisions from a storytelling perspective. Yeah, and that's how we were able to be so smooth. It's just awesome crew and not being.
Did you guys edit too? Like, who edited it? Because if you're editing as well, then you know, all right, I know what I want from a shot perspective, not just as a director. And you're just going to overshoot stuff to have options in editing. It's like, well, all right, I got this angle. I'm going to get the same thing from as we move the camera over to this angle. I don't need 12 takes. I can do 2 or whatever, and I'm good. So how's the editing? Who edited?
Yeah, great question. I had edited everything I had shot up to that point. I think I did like 11 little films and stuff, and I always edited those. And so I got to learn a lot about editing over the years. And so when I was crafting it out, and I mean, even Jordan and I did minimal shot listing. We did no storyboarding, and we shot it on Tokina zoom lenses. He did a lot of documentary work, and we wanted this film to feel that real. Joy was mentioning authenticity. That's very much the style. So he could reframe from the same setup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On these zoom lenses, which is really, really great for time, coverage, and all that stuff. But I knew kind of going into it, this is how it's going to cut together. We did eventually hire John Hyson, who did an amazing job. And he put together a lot of the assembly, the roughs. He really got nitty gritty with a lot of the sequences and stuff. But when we got to be the latter part, probably the last quarter of the edit, I mean, I was in there with him, and we were really, and I was like, I knew this would work. And this is how we shot it. And he would always be like, it'd be really nice if we could like cut to something we don't have. So we were in there puzzle piecing, all the time. But yeah.
But that's indie filmmaking. You're always gonna be like, oh, I wish we had this, and you don't. So make it work. It's never going to be perfect, and you're not going to be able to go, redo it, over and over again. Can you talk about like what the budget was, like what your budget range is on this one?
Yeah, it's micro budget, so it's definitely it's under $500,000. It's much under that, and so for us it was like, we just wanted to do the most with the least, and obviously that comes down to talking, keeping the schedule pretty tight, keeping it the days really low, but then also making sure that, and Joy did an amazing job of this too, making sure everybody knew, okay, this is what you're getting into. It's it's a really tight schedule. We're not going to be shooting more than on average 9 to 10 hours. You're going to have a day off twice a week. Like, we're going to be all right within the 2 weeks of shooting.
So you did consecutive. You went like 5 on, 2 days off, and then 6 days straight or something kind of thing to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And so we just made sure that was communicated up front, that a lot of people, this was their first feature and they wanted that experience.
Yeah.
So they're willing to take a little bit of the sacrifice on the rate, but that they would feel good about, okay, you're going to stick to the fact that we're not going to be doing overtime. We're not going to be, being pushed to the brink, and also taking such a cut in our pay. And that was just communication.
Yeah, and it's an interesting way to do it. One of what we did on my first feature is we actually only shot on weekends. So we would shoot Saturday, Sunday, and then we'd have Monday through Friday for pre-pro for 2 days of shooting. And everybody could go work their regular jobs and do whatever they needed to do. And then we all got together and shot on the weekends and did that over the course of, 4 months, and ended up with 16 shooting days in 4 months. So it took 4 months to shoot, but, I think it went so smoothly because you would have 5 days of prep for just 2 days of filming. And then you get another 5 days of prep for 2 days of filming. And that'll be part of what I talk about when I do that whole series on like how to make your first feature. There's a lot of different ways to do it. If you can raise a little bit of money, shoot it all consecutive, that's ideal. If you can't, there's nothing wrong with just shooting it on weekends, as long as you stay consistent, right? As long as you don't do a weekend and then 3 months later you do another one, nothing's gonna match or come together, right?
Yeah, I think Dave also can attest to this, making shorts and stuff. I shot things like that all the time. We just keep our regular schedules throughout the week, but what can we do on Saturday and Sunday? You'd be surprised. A good team come together. You can make a lot of stuff that way.
Yeah.
So when did David? When did you guys officially finish it? Like, when was Picture Lock? All right, we're starting to send to film festivals, do this kind of thing. Like, when were you done, and kind of starting to put it out there?
I think 2 days from now is when we're done.
2 days from now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we're right there. I mean, we've sent some work in progress cuts to a couple some festivals and stuff, but Picture Lock was a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Maybe about a couple months ago, maybe 3.
Yeah.
And
so you are still super fresh then. When is your world premiere?
Our world premiere is in 8 days. Right.
Well, tell the audience that's listening here.
8 days. Yeah. So we have a really amazing opportunity to show the film where we shot the film. Like literally where we shot it, we get to show it, which is Archer City, Texas, at the Royal Theater. Obviously made very famous in the Last Picture Show. And that town really rallied around the film for the last 3 days of principal photography. We got to shoot in their courthouse for 3 days. They gave us the whole courthouse. And then at the end of it, after we were like talking about invoices and stuff, the judge, Judge Randy Jackson, was like, "You don't have to pay anything. You guys were don't worry about it."
Yeah, you kids are good. Yeah.
I cried in front of him, and it was very shameful. But he was so sweet. Everybody was so sweet. So we were like, at the beginning of it, I was sitting in their office talking to Richard Shelley, who was former Commissioner's Court. He was the Texas Film Commission contact at Archer City, and he was like, "He's got a good story, man. I want to show it. I think it'd be good for you." And Randy was like, "Well, this is a serious situation. You're shooting a film about a custody case. People come in here every single day and their lives are changed. I hope you're honoring the situation." And I was like, "Yes, sir. Read the script. I promise. I come from this. This is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to exploit anything. We're trying to do it justice to the struggle, but honor the people that really go through it." He read it. He called me. He was like, "Okay, I love it." And he was saying that there was a story that had so many similarities that had come through the courthouse that next day, that after he read it. And he was like, "I really think this is going to be good." And then he said, would you guys want to show it at this little bitty Royal Theater here? And I was like, would I want to show it there? Yeah. My grandma, Mimi, every single time I would hang out with her, she would talk about Larry McMurtry and Archer City and Last Picture Show and all these movies I wasn't allowed to watch back then. And she was like, there's a guy over there, man. He writes the best books. You need to read this. And I was like 7, being like, should I read Lonesome Dove now? I don't know. And so for me, it was just a dream come true to even be there, much less shoot there. And I could never imagine screening the film there. So Dave's going to fly in a few days. We're all going to reunite, and we're just going to be crying and laughing the whole time. How do you feel, Dave?
What's the date and time? Is this already sold out?
So technically, it's not sold out. I don't know. I think the town's going to come out and do a lot of pay at the door kind of thing. It's really limited seating. So like 165 available seats to start with. Already sold a lot. So it's April 25th and 26th at the Royal Theater. There's going to be a little taco truck out there, some free beer if anybody wants that. Talk to each other, filmmakers, crew, and all that. Just kind of get to know one another and connect with the town. And then we're going to go in there, start the film around 8, show it. No real Q&A or anything like that, just kind of hanging out. And then, yeah, so that's
a bunch of crying once you get to see it on screen.
Lots of that.
Yeah, no, that's 100% natural. That's the way that goes. So you started submitting to film festivals, right? And so for film festivals, you'll have to basically say that this was a special screening. You don't call it a world premiere, otherwise that'll limit you for what you can do film festival-wise. Sure. And so, as someone who's run a festival for 20 years, I can agree with.
Thank you, Tony, for having our back. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. Always say special screening. Don't ever say it was your world premiere. Save that world premiere for a festival that wants to take it, basically. And so what are you looking at as far as festivals goes? Who are you submitting to? What are you trying to do?
We've submitted to a couple European festivals, and then the main ones though that we're trying to prioritize are obviously Texas film festivals. We miss some deadlines for those, unfortunately. So we'll see kind of how the film plays out. But then, I got to get my list up, Dave.
Well, you talk about Texas festivals, right? Obviously, Dallas International is next week. You didn't make that one. You missed South by as well, but Austin is in October. Have you guys submitted to Austin? Is that on your radar?
Literally, like as we speak, my computer's going to blow up because I've been doing all these test exports, about to go to DCP and all that stuff. So once that happens, I'm literally looking at the clock, like 7 p.m. something. When that happens, we'll actually have the capability to actually submit to some of these. And yes, Austin is on the list for sure. There's a lot more. I'm totally blanking. But
that's okay. Yeah, there's a lot. Well, because it's an interesting thing when you're sending a film off to festivals, right? Because there are films that are made for distribution. There are films that are made for film festivals. What do you feel like this film is made for? Is this made for? It's made for an audience, right? It's made because it's a story you want to tell. And you might not know the answer. The answer to that. There's certain parameters that make it marketable from a sales and distribution perspective, and others that make it a festival film. What do you think it is?
Yeah, I would say it's in the camp of distribution, but also this is our first one.
Also, yeah.
We're not pretending like we're experts in the release and distribution realm of production. So we're really learning, and we're being a sponge and just seeing what the right thing to do is, and listening to people that have done it before, and just trying to be as willing and open as possible. But that's what we're excited about these special screenings is just to share it with those that helped us make it, with an audience that we know wants to see it, and then get that feedback and just see what they think, and then keep it going.
That's good. And so from the like I said, the film festival perspective, is the plan start getting it into film festivals, see if someone wants to take it for distribution? Like what's your distribution process, or your thought? Or don't you know?
Yeah, we have a kind of a crazy idea. I know I keep talking. It's gotta be annoying. But we started this whole thing by saying, okay, let's try to make this movie in a way that is fully from our hearts. And that means in the release strategy, let's do that too. So let's not be closed off to traditional means of independent distribution. I'm not saying let's not submit to film festivals.
Yeah.
I'm saying let's not try to shop it around. But let's also what if none of that happens? There's many filmmakers who, unfortunately, all their blood, sweat, and tears and money and time goes into just a Vimeo link, and it's great. They can show it, and it's a calling card film and all that stuff. And that's amazing that you could even make it. But is there an audience for the film? And is there a way to reach them that maybe the tracks aren't laid yet for them? And I don't know what that even means. Is there innovation? Is there disruptive marketing? Is there handshake deals, working with independent private theaters, doing it yourself, self-distribution, all that stuff? And I think what Dave and I have talked about a lot is it started with that same thing. If it means enough to you, you'll figure out a way. And we're in a blessed position to not we don't have a lot of people breathing down our neck saying, no, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. We can kind of use this as a chance to see how can we get this directly to an audience in a way that maybe it takes more time and effort and sweat, but is it possible? Let's just try it. And so that's also kind of our backup plan, but it really is like the main artery of our plan.
Yeah, no, and because you don't have what would be, considered like a traditional, sales film. It's not something that you're going to get a sales agent on board. They're going to go to the marketing can in Berlin and Toronto and kind of, put it on their slate and sell. It's just, there are certain kinds of films that's what they do. And I haven't seen your film, but from knowing, in the conversation, everything that we're having here, there's different avenues. Self-distribution right now, I don't even call it self-distribution anymore. Call it distribution, right? Because the different methods and platforms of distribution, the entire industry is democratized, and so there's no reason to think of self-distribution as any less than or different from having a sales agent take your film and go it out there into a traditional marketplace, because there's just so many different, avenues and ways to do it. So, don't restrict yourself for sure as far as that goes, because in most cases, even if someone does pick up your film and, kind of put it out there in the world, you're still going to have to be the one that does all the marketing. No one's putting, a huge amount of, P&A into marketing behind it anyways. It's just not what, the industry is anymore, especially for stuff that's direct to different streaming platforms. So, I think there's a lot of avenues, whether it's the four-walling, you talked about, you're going to do independent theatrical runs, or even just a lot of these different, AVOD and fast, streaming platforms. So there's a lot of different ways to do it.
Staying open and trying to, as much as we can, market the film or release the film in a way that stays true to kind of the original intent, and just learn along. It is our first one.
Well, you learn for what's happening for the second one. So before we wrap up, then I want Joy and then David and Adam will go in that order. What is next for you guys? So are the three of you working on another project? Joy, do you have something else you're doing? Have you already made your second feature since doing this one? What's happening there?
I don't know if I've been on another feature since this one. I primarily work on commercials. So that's probably what's in the docket for me as of now. But if Adam were to come to me and be like, I got this crazy idea, I'd be like, I'll stop you right there. I'm ready. I am ready.
Awesome.
David, what about you?
Yeah. I'm just going where the good Lord takes me, Tony. In storytelling, wherever that may be. I have a little things I like writing right now. My best buddy Adam's writing some things, and we'll see if that's meant to be or not. But yeah, I just trust that it's all gonna be okay. Yeah.
Awesome. And then Adam, what do you want people to know about this film? They're going to listen to this or see it on our YouTube channel, and what do they need to know about it? What do they need to look for? People are going to ask us, like, well, where can I see this now? That's always going to be the question, right?
Yeah, that's definitely the number one question we're getting. And these three screenings, April 25th, 26th in Archer City, then the 28th Texas Theater in Dallas. Those
you guys are doing it in Texas. That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yes. Ashton and Brock over there are awesome. always support indie films. So I'm glad you're doing something with Texas. That's great.
Just love that theater. It is so cool. We've seen some amazing stuff there. My wife and I enjoyed it. It's fantastic. I'm really excited to show doing this. It's super exciting. Big history. There's a lot of cool things to check out.
That's the Texas Theater?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's where Lee Harvey Oswald ran to after the
Yes,
the murder.
that is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. Technically, that seat isn't there anymore, but you can still find the spot. If you ask them, where's the seat, they'll tell you. You can go sit in it and get a picture of
I will be doing that.
where the Oswald seat is. The weird
Amazing.
thing for Dallas to be famous for, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Maybe you'll find Dave in that seat.
But on a side note, you know that the Texas Theater every November on the I think it's the 22nd, right?
Yeah.
They show the same film that was being shown on November 22nd, 1963, and charge the same price, like a quarter or whatever it is.
Wow.
And so you can relive, that day every year in 1963 at the Texas Theater on that date.
Dave will be.
November 22nd, 2025.
I will be there.
Yes.
I will be there.
But to answer your question, I mean, I just want people to know that, we made this film for you. This was a film that was born in our hearts out of the deepest meaning we could possibly excavate together with a group of people, executed by a group of people that were so amazing and talented and just like self-sacrificing and really just tried their best to it's up there. It's on that screen. It's in that film. And it is, I mean, I'm so biased. You can't not be, but it is so good. And I'm so honestly over the moon with how it turned out. And I cannot wait to share it with people. And we made it for you. And we're, a lot of times there's like trepidation around like, don't tell me what you really thought. Speaking for myself, I just want to know what you think. If I get to talk to you about it, if we somehow get to connect further at a screening or something, just tell me what you think. Like my feelings won't be hurt. I just want to not only become a better filmmaker and serve audiences better, but I want to know what this made you think and feel. And I want to, hopefully that's what Anytown Pictures is all about. Our little logo is like a telephone pole. And so it's like stories are kind of like that, the unseen connectivity, and that kind of analogy, metaphor, whatever. And so we just want to connect. So these kind of unique, you can only come see it this one time in this one place for now, experiences, I think, are what a lot of people are craving. They want to kind of get out of their home. They want to see people. They want to talk in person. And so that's what these events are about. And that's what this film is about. And I just can't wait to meet you and hear your story. Because any town, that name is, no matter where you're from, the next great story or the next great film or whatever, something that's meaningful to hear about can come from anywhere, any town, no matter how big or small. And so those are the stories that we're excited to tell. Here.
Awesome. Well, thanks you guys for being on the Dallas Film Podcast here, sponsored by Southside Studios in Dallas. Look forward to people seeing the film. Look forward to seeing it one day. Thanks very much.
Yeah, great.
Thank you,
Thanks so much.